is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
What's up, everybody? Reggie and Luke back in the lab. Another episode of Superior Sports Talk presented by Locked On Sports Minnesota. What's going on, Reggie?
What's up? What's up? I was ready. I was like, hey, as the music was going.
Here we go. Jam-packed show to get into where we're going to break down all the action from Saturday's playoff game as the Wolves take down the 2-seed Memphis Grizzlies. Later on, we're going to play What Does It Mean? I'm going to put Reggie on the hot seat, talking Minnesota Wild, some Twins baseball. Plus, we got special guest Sam Ekstrom joining the show. It's all coming up on the Superior Sports Talk show. So let's jump right into it, Reggie. We got hunkered down during Easter weekend. It's the thick of spring. Saturday afternoon, we tune in.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Luke.
Go ahead.
Before we do that, before we turn the page on the weekend, what was on your Easter menu?
Oh, man. So here's what we did. We actually we played it pretty low key ourselves too, and we went out. We found a nice little Easter buffet, little brunch. So you got your standard scrambled eggs over easy, however you like them. Some nice honey glazed ham, and of course a bevy of options to choose from. So everybody was happy and content. But again, a little bit more low key this year than I think in years past. But it was nice, Reggie. It was nice. How about yourself?
Okay, so I had I baked some chicken.
Ooh.
And
is this solo? Just Reggie in the kitchen?
Hey, it was just solo this time.
No help, no sous chef, nothing. Just Reggie, one-on-one.
Just me. I grew up in the kitchen, so I got a lot of recipes from my mom, my grandmother. So I did some baked chicken. I had a little like Southern style fried cabbage, my grandma and mom's recipe, and then a little cornbread. And then funny enough, my mom made some sweet potatoes like Christmas time when she came to visit. I froze those bad boys. Wow. Brought it out.
They held up
yesterday. Yeah, held up.
Still banging.
Tasted just like when she made them the first time.
Oh my goodness. So, I gotta I haven't got the invite yet, but I gotta get into the kitchen with Reggie one of these holidays and
always
sneak over and check that menu out, see what it's all about. A lot of high expectations for sure. Some of these things you're throwing us. Okay, so everybody's Easter was good, including the Timberwolves. Again, this game went back and forth. They had a small lead, Reggie, but you could feel the window of margin and error was just airtight, back and forth, all the way into the fourth quarter. They go into the fourth. Finally, a little bit of more breathing room and holding on in the end. They win 130-117. They steal that first game. You start to break down the box score. Anthony Edwards, superstar in the making, 36 points leading the way. Karl-Anthony Towns, we talked a lot about, and we'll get into it. How is Karl-Anthony Towns going to bounce back from that brutal play-in game against the Clippers and Tyronn Lue's blueprint, how to stop him? He puts up 29, 13 boards, D'Lo, 9 assists. I thought maybe the biggest edge, I'm interested to hear what you say later on, was the bench. 23 from Malik Beasley. Josh McDaniels puts up 15 and 7 boards, 4 of them offensive rebounds, by the way. Total team effort, Reggie, top to bottom. Wolves steal game one, who, again, Grizzlies going in, we mentioned this, 19 of their last 22 at home. They were on fire at home. Okay, Reggie, I got you all teed up. Break it down for us. What'd you see from the Wolves game one win, and just maybe what you thought some of the biggest keys to victory were?
It's interesting. I was talking to one of my best friends, and, he picked the Grizzlies to win in 6. And I think, actually, he picked the Grizzlies to win in like a gentleman's sweep. And I was just like, dang, that's how we doing it? But, what was interesting is there's something to be said. And my friend even mentioned this after game one. He was just like, man, I think I underestimated them. But there's something to be said about momentum, especially in the playoffs. And it's interesting because, it didn't work out well for the Pelicans yesterday. But there's something to be said about, getting a jump start to your postseason. And, like I said, didn't really do anything with the Suns. They came out and just still dominated like they should have yesterday. But Memphis has kind of been sitting on ice for a little bit.
Yeah,
the
no doubt.
Timberwolves were feeling it, fresh off that postseason win, the play-in win, and they carried that momentum, that confidence into this next game. Cat obviously had some confidence that he wasn't going to repeat that performance from the last time. He just flushed it. He seemed to be in a really good headspace. He came into the game really sassy, like
he did,
like almost like a y'all got me messed up type of attitude that he had on Saturday, and I was here for it. Like I loved it. Like
I love it.
More of that, Cat. Like I need that injected into my veins. And I think what was interesting is it was just like, look, man, these Timberwolves, like in games past, in years past. Even maybe earlier this season, they allow a team to just hang close like that, eventually tie, kind of take the lead type situation. Getting into these like slugfests with these teams usually don't really spell well for the Timberwolves and their success rate of winning those games.
No doubt.
What was interesting was they took some of Memphis's best punches on Saturday and they punched them back, like before, ultimately delivering like these Superman punches in the fourth quarter. And that was very encouraging to see. It was just one game, and you don't want to just go quick overreaction and say like,
right.
"Oh man, it's gonna be a sweep." Like, no, I think I saw enough of this game to see that, like, man, like this is gonna be a slugfest. It may go 7.
Yeah, no doubt. I think what I was really intrigued about, just stemming off that, Reggie, was that it's not the talent on the roster. That's not the question. We knew both these small market teams were going to put on a show for the rest of the country to watch these televised games. But it was the inexperience, because once you get in the playoffs, it's a whole different atmosphere. And with this inexperienced young roster, I just wasn't sure what team was going to show up. So Anthony Edwards' playoff debut, 36 points, 6 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. I mean, we talked about it weeks leading up to this game. This man just has that ice in his veins. It doesn't seem to matter how bright the lights have gotten for Anthony Edwards when he's had to put the team on his back. He just continues to stay this cool and calm demeanor I've just been so impressed with for just such a young player in the NBA. What'd you think about Anthony Edwards' playoff debut?
I loved it. I thought it was great, man. Like, it's so interesting because Anthony Edwards is such a guy that doesn't take himself too seriously.
Right.
He's such a goofball. He's got the flip phone, like just total goofball, like just a crazy, exciting, interesting personality, right? But when he's out there on the court, he's all business. And I think what's interesting too is you can be all business and all about fun as well. And I think what was interesting about seeing Anthony Edwards in back-to-back postseason games, the play-in and now this game, is the dude just locks in. And he just has like no sense of like the gravity of the moment. Like he's just playing his game. And when the lights are bright, that's when you can tell the stars from the pretenders. And it's just so interesting, man, because like he hasn't been at this level before. He hasn't been on this type of a stage before. And it was funny, like him talking after the game. He was just like, this was cool. This was cool.
Let's do this again.
He's
do
like,
this again sometime.
This is cool. I like
Let's
this.
get together.
It's just like, dude, like, are you like, do you understand like or grasp
Where
like
are
what
you
have just done? Like, dude, you are killing it right now. Like,
man.
it just doesn't seem to like really even register with him. And I think that's the coolest part about that. But dropping shots and driving to the basket and playing hard on defense, like the dude is what you need for a series like this.
Well, I think that's it right there, right? Because Karl-Anthony Towns, those are the questions, not about the talent, but again, keeping that cool, calm demeanor, that level head. Patrick Beverley brings a lot of high energy, which is great, but
Yeah.
sometimes can get a little messy. So having this cool, calm demeanor again with Anthony Edwards, I think is just shown a great balance for the rest of this roster. I want to ask you about Ja Morant because it's not often I sit down and just watch from game to game, start to finish, a guy this talented and
Oh
this
my
good.
gosh.
We talked about all week last week. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. They contained him, 32 points, 8 assists. He dished it out. Dylan Brooks had 24, Desmond Bain 17. But just overall thoughts, how you think they kind of went out to attack that game plan as far as how they're going to defend Ja Morant.
You know, what was interesting is it was exactly like we said, him trying to attack the basket, which he did like quite successfully on Saturday. But, it's funny, like it's still when you have the Wolves playing as well-rounded as they played, it really didn't like matter that much. And there were times where, Ja would try to maybe bring the team back into it by maybe shooting a jumper or shooting a three. And it's just like, that's not a consistent part of his game. And it's funny when you get Ja into those type of situations, I do think that is advantage Timberwolves. But look, the dude is amazing, man. He's
unbelievable.
Like peak Derrick Rose meets,
I like that.
Meets
I
peak,
like that.
Russell Westbrook. Like the dude is just like, it's incredible to see like how just explosive the guy is and just how he attacks the rim. I think we are really being treated right now. This might be one of the best series of the first round of the playoffs, just in general, just because of the talent that's there, the young, like hungry demeanor of all these guys. Like, Memphis has always been known as that grit and grind team. And the Timberwolves are starting to kind of develop that persona as well. And it's just so funny seeing the two of them just like go at it and punch each other in the mouth and just keep going at it. It's like watching one of those like old like Morales Pacquiao fights where they're just like beating on each other for 12 rounds. And it's just like, dude, like you would think that one of these guys would hit the mat by now, but it's just like they're just beating on each other.
Slugfest.
And it's amazing, man. Like I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and I'm excited for Tuesday to see what Ja does as an encore.
You said it's a treat. We're definitely being spoiled. Again, two kind of small market teams. I think the rest of the country now is able to really sit down and watch how talented and what the future of the NBA may look like for the next few years with both these star-studded rosters. I want to preview game 2 here real quick before we get Sam Ekstrom on, but real quick, hot seat, and you're drafting a team tomorrow. Who you picking?
Lord.
Anthony Edwards or Ja Morant? Who's the pick?
Don't do me like this.
Who's the pick? Okay, I'll tell you what. Going in, I thought it's Ja Morant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No disrespect against T. It has to be Ja Morant. The guy is just the way he creates the entire offense and game. It's just too much for me. It's just too much. But I think I'm starting to lean Anthony Edwards, man. I don't know. Flip a coin.
All right. So, and I'm not even being biased because we're in Minnesota. But
Of course. Unbiased.
I think I would take Anthony Edwards.
I think you have to.
Because look, he has the explosiveness that Ja Morant has, like to where, he come down and just like obliterate the rim, like he has that a part of his game. But, Anthony is also improving as a shooter as well. Like if you need him to get you a bucket, a lot of these like step back jumpers that he's nailing. I mean, I want that. I'm a person that is very like enthralled by shooters. Like shooters shoot. And the guy, it's so funny. Like all these people like, talk about how good of an actual like basketball player, people like Ben Simmons, Draymond Green. And it's like, look, I can appreciate those guys' game. But like for me, like give me a Steph Curry, give me a a Damian Lillard, give me a Cat, like anytime they could just step out and just like, yoke a three. You know what I mean? Like I love that. Joel Embiid. I mean, I can watch Kevin Durant play like 7 days a week. Like the dude is like, he's amazing. I think Anthony Edwards is going to continue to grow in that regard to where, even if it's just like a mid-range, like he's going to develop that jumper and really just kind of be like that dog, man, like that all-around guy that can give it to you where he's attacking the basket, but also, step out, like don't leave him open either because he's going to drain that shot on you as well. I think that part of his game is growing. And for me, a person who values shooting, I think I'll take Ant over Ja, but it's almost a toss-up, man. It's like you said, you can kind of flip a coin and just take a guy and let him lead you.
Right. Depends what day of the week, man. Depends what side of the bed you wake up. But I mean, we're splitting hairs. But again, I went Ja going into this game, and not that one game shouldn't change my mind that much. But I'm just starting to lean. I'm with you. I'm starting to lean a little bit more Anthony Edwards when it comes to that tough decision. Just previewing Tuesday, game 2, 7:30 tip-off tomorrow. Rest assured, we'll be here Wednesday to break down all the action. Let me ask you this, because you know more about the NBA. I'm such a football, NFL, X's and O's guys. How do you expect both teams to respond after game 1, after seeing what you're seeing? I mean, from a strategy standpoint in basketball and in NBA specifically, does the strategy change that much in a 7-game series from one game to the next? Or is it pretty much, hey, good job, let's try to clean up this, and this, free throws, turnovers, things like that, and let's just go play our brand of basketball?
Yeah, I think it's mostly that. What's interesting is so I guess I would say that maybe we might see a little bit more defense. Like I'm looking at some of these stats, like 130 to 117 is a very high scoring NBA game. And it's just interesting because like the Wolves were able to get some great production off the bench, specifically Malik Beasley and Jaden McDaniels. And it's like, look, I don't know. Maybe it's fool's gold to think that you can count on those guys to have those type of performances every game. But it's just like maybe it could be a coming out party situation for the Wolves bench, because I think coming into that game or coming into this series, I think a lot of like experts probably picked the Grizzlies as far as like having the better bench. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But like when the Wolves come out and do that, you got some contributions from Naz Reid, Taurean Prince, you got Malik Beasley, Jaden McDaniels. Like when you got guys like that coming off the bench giving you that type of production, like watch out, man, because like that starting 5 is going to give you what you need. You know what I mean? Like they've shown that, like, look, even if one of us has a bad game, there are going to be 2 more of us that will pick up the slack. And that's encouraging, going into game 2. What I think is going to be interesting is to see if this bench has the same level of production, because if they do, then I see it being very hard to beat this Timberwolves team. Like I said, they were kind of like hanging around with Memphis in that fourth quarter, and then they were just like, you know what, we're just going to take this over and dominate down the stretch. And that was really cool to see. I just want to see if that is sustainable.
Playoffs, NBA, a little bit more low scoring, tighter defense. But again, we're talking about the number 1 and number 2 in points per game offenses in the entire league. Timberwolves number 1 at 115.9. Grizzlies scored an average of 115.6. So neck and neck. Remember, 7 and 8 seeds are a combined 0-36 in the playoffs, by the way, since 2013. So we'll see if the Wolves can keep the magic alive in Memphis tomorrow night. Tuesday, tip-off, 7:30 Central Standard Time. Rest assured, again, myself and Reggie will be here Wednesday to break down all the action. Coming up, I'm going to put Reggie through the gauntlet with what does it mean. But first, we bring in one of our very own, #OneOfUs, Sam Ekstrom from Locked On Minnesota. We're going to talk more Wolves and preview game 2 a little bit, plus a little Wild Talkers as they win 5-4 over the Sharks last night in OT. Follow him on Twitter @Sam Ekstrom. How you doing, buddy?
Doing excellent. Good to make my debut on Superior Sports Talk. Reggie, Luke, love what you're doing so far. Pumped to be on with you.
Appreciate it, Sam. I mean, we're right in the thick of some Wolves talkers. Again, you saw it Saturday. They still game one. How about just a knee-jerk reaction, some quick overall kind of bullet points or keys to the game that you saw from that game one victory over Memphis?
Yeah, I said this on the Ron Johnson show earlier today. The Wolves came in very low on experience, as were the Grizzlies, and I felt like the Wolves were the more seasoned of the two teams. They had the fast start. They had the good finish. They were better at rebounding. They were better at free throws. They did all the things that you would expect a team without experience to falter in. And they excelled in those areas. And except for a couple little runs where Memphis kind of threatened, it seemed like the Wolves had a lot of control over that game. They were the more poised team. They got to loose balls. They were just working harder and riding that momentum wave off of the Clippers play-in win. So I was really encouraged that was a sustainable model, that they can continue that forward as this series goes on. They still didn't even get a lot from D'Angelo Russell. They still, didn't get as many free throw attempts as Memphis. I mean, there were parts of that game that the Wolves had to overcome, and they did so beautifully with Edwards and Cat and Beasley all working really well together.
Sam, it's kind of cool to see them actually do this stuff this time, right? Like, I feel like coming here to Minnesota, everybody is just always so pessimistic about their sports teams, and it's just the Wolves can be up by 25, and people are just don't even fall for it. It's not gonna happen. But to see them actually finish the job and do what they were supposed to do in game one, that was pretty encouraging to see. And do you feel like that is gonna carry over to game two at all?
Yeah, human nature, I think, is going to lend itself toward the Timberwolves having a little bit of a letdown. I think you probably tell yourself, hey, we did our job. We won one of two on the road. This game is gravy. We're playing with house money. And Memphis, on the other hand, will go in with all the urgency in the world after having made some adjustments. So I think it's going to be tough to get that type of efficiency from Cat, that type of performance from Edwards on a game-to-game basis. You might need to fill in the cracks with someone off the bench. Taurean Prince might have to have a big game. Jaden McDaniels might have to have a bigger game. So that they are going to have to find other sources. They can't always just rely on the stars, and Memphis has better depth than the Timberwolves. That's one advantage. So I think that while it's going to be tough to win game two, of course, Memphis is still going to be favored to win that game. The Timberwolves have proven time and time again this year that they can go into tough environments and grind out wins. I've seen them do it at Philadelphia, at Milwaukee, at the Knicks. I mean, these aren't easy environments in which to win, and the Timberwolves kept doing that, and that's why they're a 46-win team. You have to beat some good teams along the way. So the Timberwolves are not going to be phased, I don't think, by any environments. They have enough swagger, and Edwards kind of sets the tone for that. He's just unflappable, and I think that lends itself well.
I could talk Wolves with you two all day. Unfortunately, we got to switch gears and talk Minnesota Wild, who did play tonight. But before I do that, I put Reggie on the spot. I got to put Sam on the spot. You're starting a team tomorrow. Who you picking, Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards? I want to get inside the elite NBA head of Sam Ekstrom here for a second.
I think Edwards has a little bit more depth to his game. I think he's got that physicality where I like him as a high-end defender once he reaches his full potential. I think he's maybe a better three-point shooter than Ja. Ja has not necessarily been an outside guy. He's more of that slasher, attacker, rise up and dunk over you. He's a great finisher. But I think Edwards, with just the way that he can dictate a game, the way that he can shoot from 28 feet, he can shoot the mid-range, he can finish at the rim. There's no part of the court where he's not a threat. I think I like Edwards, especially when you look at his age 20, still the second year in the league, and he's doing this. He's a little ahead of where Morant was in his second year. I think I take Edwards long term.
So the Wild ended up winning 5-4 last night. Remember going in, Sam, there was a lot of different storylines. Can they clinch a playoff berth? They needed 1 point to do so. Number of injuries going into that game. Matt Dumba, Jordan Greenway, Tyson Jost, all sitting out. But in the end, it was maybe another uncharacteristic game from Marc-Andre Fleury. But ultimately, Kevin Fiala, I mean, he's playing like a man amongst boys, 4 points in all. They clinched the playoff spot in overtime. Sam, what was just a couple overall reactions or takeaways from last night's game in overtime to clinch that playoff spot?
Yeah, boy, it's nice to have a guy like Fiala. And there was scuttlebutt that they might, deal him before the season or at the deadline, that maybe he wasn't going to be on this team long term. And I think he's definitely forcing their hand that they might need to consider, making him paid up there right up with Kaprizov, because just the subtle things too. I mean, that first goal that Kulikov scored, just the tight little stick handle in congestion, he gets rid of the puck to the point, a shot and a goal. The way he distributes and the way that he just maintains possession is next level. And then you see what he can do in overtime. I guess I thought that he scored the game-winning goal in real time. I guess it was tipped in by Spurgeon, but he gets the assist on it. He had 4 points on the day. And on a day when Kaprizov was relatively quiet, he obviously put some shots on net, but he didn't have his best game. And Fiala absolutely carried them to victory in a tricky, second game of a back-to-back.
Sam, I'm from St. Louis, obviously. So grew up, and I wouldn't say I grew up rooting for the Blues, but they were a part of the culture in St. Louis. They seem to be like one of the hottest teams right now in the league, and the Wild are right behind them. How do you see things playing out?
Yeah, the Blues make me nervous. And the way that the NHL playoffs are structured, obviously, there's going to pit two really good teams in the first round, which is atypical to what you'd see in like the NBA. I mean, the Blues and Wild, I think both would go into the playoffs thinking we can win the Stanley Cup, and one of them is going to be gone in the first round. Mm-hmm. The Blues can put goals on the board, man. I mean, they put 6 on the Wild on Saturday, turn around, go to Nashville and score 8. They're putting up like football scores on teams. That's crazy. Yeah, the Blues are deep. They're tough. They got high-end talent. Tarasenko is unbelievable. Good goaltending. And the Wild have struggled in that building as well. They've got some ghosts of the past as well against St. Louis. They lost to them in a playoff series when the Wild were heavy favorites a few years ago. So it's hard for me to say definitively the Wild can win that series when St. Louis, I think, has won like 9. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They're playing their best hockey at the end of the year. I would be nervous if I were Minnesota.
Yeah, little room for error here down the stretch. Again, 7 games left for the Wild. They take on the Canadiens tomorrow night in Montreal as they try to stay stride for stride with the Blues for that 2 seed. Sam Ekstrom on Twitter at Sam Ekstrom, part of the Locked On Minnesota Network. We'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks a lot, Sam. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
See you, Sam.
See ya.
Sam Ekstrom. Unbelievable. Good stuff, Reggie. As usual from Sam. I'm just curious as we kind of wrap up this Wild talk. 7 games left again. It seems like when you watch the trajectory of the Wild, I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, still kind of shuffling these goalies back and forth, but you just brought it up. The Blues, they're just red hot right now. How do you see this last little stretch shaking out for this Wild as they try to lock up that 2 seed against the Blues?
Man, it's gonna be tough, man. You kind of hope that the Blues just kind of stub their toe, because it's just like they're playing like some absolutely fantastic hockey right now, and you want to just give Marc-Andre Fleury the benefit of the doubt, knowing that he's a legend. He's been through things before, but it's a little touch and go there when you see him giving up all those goals like that. You're just like, dang, man,
a couple 5-hole goals, like that's just uncharacteristic, man.
Yeah, it's just like, look, just like kind of how we said with Cat, like you kind of have to give guys leeway to have a bad game here or there. And good. Lucky for the Wild is, when they get into the playoffs, there'll be, series. So, if they do have a bad game from him or something like that, then, you've seen enough of him in his career, his legendary career, to believe that he won't repeat, similar performances again. So, you get a little concerned about that. But honestly, man, like this Wild team just has a lot of confidence like that. No matter who they get down to, they're always going to be able to, overcome. And, you got a overtime goal like that. Like, to go home. Like, I made a tweet last night, like, you don't want to go to overtime with the Wild. Like, it just usually never goes well. You know, like, I guess unless you're playing the Blues, goodness gracious.
Well, maybe. I mean, yeah.
But usually, most times, it goes well for the Wild when you're talking about going to OT. And I think the team has confidence, despite some of the tough losses that they've had here down the stretch. Like, I think they're going to be okay no matter what happens.
I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but you just watched last night's game. It just goes to show you again. They get up 2-rip real quick. You think, okay, easy breezy, lemon peasy. This one's done. Shut off the lights. Let's see what else is on TV. Sharks, they let them back in, 2-2. They go to overtime, but it was about 10 minutes left in the third period. Mm-hmm. It's just like they flipped on a switch. From the energy to the speed to you name it, everything they started playing, it was like night and day from the lull that they kind of got caught in the second period, got way outshot in the second period, still struggling with a lot of power plays, by the way. That special teams unit continues to look very sub-average as they, again, try to go down this last 7-game stretch. I like what you said. Hopefully the Blues just stub their toe, man, because as of right now, it's not feeling that great as far as just this final stretch and momentum when you look at the trajectory both these teams are on. Okay, it's time. My favorite part of the show.
Here we go.
I'm putting Reggie on the hot seat. Reggie, are you ready?
Let's do it.
What does it mean with Reggie? The Minnesota Wild won last night in overtime versus the Sharks 5-4. And while we'll always take the W, experts will tell you it shouldn't even have really gotten that close. Far more talented Wild team versus the Sharks. But between Marc-Andre Fleury giving up some uncharacteristic 4 goals and a power play unit that at one point deep in this game, Reggie, through 4 power plays, had 0 shots. Man. They gave up a shorthanded goal and amassed what felt like to be 50 turnovers. So what does it mean when it comes to more cause for concern for the Wild's final playoff push? Is it Fleury's shaky and inconsistent play in the net as of late, or the Wild's special team atrocities?
You know, look, I'm not the biggest hockey guy, so, I can't sit here and just, act like I know X's and O's and all that stuff. But, like, I think I've seen enough Wild games to know that they're going to be okay. Like, you talk about Bill Guerin making these moves here toward the trade deadline to solidify the team. Like, okay, we're going for it. Okay, like, we're doing this. And they've responded well to that. And I think what I've seen from them kind of gives me the confidence that they're going to be okay. Like, they're going to be able to compete with teams and really be able to beat some teams in the playoffs. And I think, like I discussed a little bit ago, like, you would like to think that Flowers' performance is something that is a little bit of an anomaly. But they went and got him, and they traded away, Capo, who we saw yesterday. But, like, you got Cam Talbot. And since Fleury has, like, been here in Minnesota, like, the dude is playing some really good hockey in goal. And I think that's the reason why, you have 2 guys like that. Like, that's the reason why, when one guy may be, struggling, maybe he has the yips or, whatever the case is, like, you can put the other guy in there and know that you're going to still get some high-level goaltending from that guy. And I think the Wild have enough depth, too, when you talk about first, second, third line, all those things. Like, they have enough depth to go ahead and do what they have to do. Like, I thought the game was over. When they're playing the Blues, like,
right.
And then they storm back to go to OT. And I think, like, when you see things like that happen, you're just like, look, man, like, even if you don't know a lot about hockey, you're like, okay, there's something with this team, man. Like, I think they can do some things. And I think that gives me the confidence to say like, oh, I think they'll be okay, regardless of some of these like shaky things that are happening in these games. Like they're getting it out of their system before the real thing starts.
That's what we hope, right? A double dip in here. I'm going to go back to the Wild because the bright spot for the team has been Kevin Fiala. We heard Sam bring him up, and another monster game, 4 points last night. He has been a man amongst boys. What does it mean for a possible extension for Fiala, who has earned the right to be paid as one of the Wild's top players?
You know, it's funny because when we had the Marc-Andre Fleury press conference a little while back, the question was asked to general manager Bill Guerin, like, okay, look, you making all these moves, bruh, but what does that mean for the future? He's just like, man, can we just enjoy this right now?
Right.
Like, can we do that? And
Don't ruin this for me. Right.
And I think what, is the thing is like, look, we really don't want to think about it right now. We don't want to talk about that right now because like he will have some decisions to make, and Kevin Fiala is making it very hard on him as far as like, okay, because there's only so much money to go around. You know what I mean? And you've invested in guys like Jeep and Kirill, and you got Dumba, and it's like, look, like something is gonna have to give here. And, they made the conscious decision, like I said, to trade Capo. They're just like, look, like we probably aren't going to be able to pay him. We'll just have to kind of do without and see what happens with Fleury moving forward.
Right.
Whether or not it's just a 1 year, like, I hate to call it a rental, but, like a 1 year deal.
Yep.
Or will he possibly come back? He's just like, look, I can't get enough of that cold up there in Minnesota. I'll come back for that. But honestly though, like Guerin has some decisions to make, and Fiala is playing out of his mind.
Right.
And I just don't know how that is going to play out because like he's the type of a guy that you like, look, man, I want to keep around, I want to keep building with this guy in mind. And it's just like, well, there's only so much money to go around unless you're like, I don't know, robbing somebody to pay him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how.
Where'd you get all this money?
Exactly. So it's just like, I don't know how that plays out. And, you ask, what does it mean? I think it means that there's some decisions to be made that are going to be difficult.
All right, last one. What does it mean with Reggie? The Minnesota Twins wrap up their 4-game stand against the Red Sox today, hoping for at best a split after losing their last two. More depressing, the fact since losing Byron Buxton Friday, the team has scored just 1 run in 20-plus innings without Buxton in the lineup. So, Reggie, what does it mean for the Twins' offense when Buxton just can't stay on the field?
I mean, look, we got to pick it up. Carlos Correa talked about, like, look, I know what championship, play looks like. It's like, okay, champion. Right. All right, champ. Time to buck up. Like we need you to kind of, rally the troops and let's do this thing. I think, man, it sucks. Like I haven't been here for very long, and so many people are just pessimistic about Byron Buxton. It's just like we're always just like waiting on the injury to happen. And when it did, there were so many people on my Twitter like, man, here we go again. I knew it. So. Yeah, this is just the least surprising thing to happen. It always happens. It's just like, dang, man, like you want to be optimistic. I'm coming in with like fresh eyes to this thing, and I'm and I'm feeling it for them. I'm just like, dang, man.
Reggie's still new to this vibe over here. We got in Minnesota. Yeah,
I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he was playing out of his mind in the spring. Like, he really seemed to carry some of that good momentum over into the season. And a routine play, like something you just do all the time. Thankfully, it's not like anything too severe. Like the MRI showed that there is no like significant damage or anything like that. But it just sucks. Like his frustration showed it. He's just like, oh, here we go again. Dang it, man. I'm hurt again. Like just sliding into second base, like something that he's probably done since he was a child. Like it's just one of the more mundane things that they do in base. Like, I don't even think they even think about it at this point. They're just like, I'm sliding. Yep. I'm on the ground. Yep. I'm on the base. And it's just like, it sucks because like he obviously is an emotional catalyst, you know, like his energy is just like off the charts. And I think guys feed off of that. When he's playing well, like other guys are just like jacked up and juiced up too. And I think that's probably the biggest thing because they have the talent on the bats, but it's just like, look, one guy can't stop the show. Like it's time to rake, like especially if that's going to be what this team is like building its identity on as they try to figure out this whole pitching thing, because like the pitching thing, whew, Lord, it might be a long season, you know, talking about some of this stuff. Like Joe Ryan was awesome. He was awesome.
Solid.
But then
solid.
You come out and Sonny Gray gets hurt in the second inning of his second start as a Twin, and you're just like, come on, man. Like now he goes on the injured list, and you're already like kind of, you know, just skating by a little bit with your pitching as it stands, and you're just like, dang, man, like we just couldn't afford that. So, you know, you ask, what does it mean? It means that like these bats are gonna have to pick it up. I mean, they already kind of had a little bit of pressure on them just based on, you know, just trying to get this pitching staff in line to try to carry the team. And now they're going to have to do it even more so.
Okay, he did it again. He survived the gauntlet. Huge thank you, by the way, to Sam Ekstrom joining us on today's episode. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us every day for another episode covering all the biggest topics in Minnesota sports. He's Reggie Wilson. Follow him on Twitter at Reggie Wilson TV and on KARE11. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Tune in tomorrow to Superior Sports Talk of the Locked On Sports Minnesota.
Peace. Be blessed. Spread love this week.
This is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.